Well, welcome back to Design to Win. I am so glad that you're here with me today. Today's episode, we are going to talk about the 5 things that every parent should know before an IEP or ARD meeting. If you have ever walked into an IEP meeting and felt overwhelmed, unsure, or even a little intimidated, trust me, you are not alone. For many parents, these meetings can feel like you're stepping into a space where everyone else in that room knows what's going on, and you're just trying to keep up with what's being said. So, before we even talk about how to prepare for that meeting, I just want to take a few minutes and kind of ground us in something really important. What is an ARD meeting or what is an IEP meeting, and why does it really matter so much for your child? A lot of parents and people don't understand this. So, we're going to dive into that a little bit. An IEP meeting, or what is called an ARD meeting, it stands for Admission, Review, and Dismissal. It is a meeting designed to create or review your child's individualized education plan. This is where decisions are made about your child's academic support, their accommodations, modifications if they need it, and services like speech, occupational therapy, and other specialized instruction, needs for an aide in the classroom, and etc. It's not just a meeting, it is a planning session for your child's success. So it's super important. The goal is to make sure your child is being supported in a way that helps them learn and grow and move forward. So, based on how your child is designed, it's really important to know that you're going to discuss your child's design, the way they learn, the way they do everything, not based on the one size fits all system that I call it. And that's why this all matters. So, typically, schools will schedule one ARD meeting or an IEP meeting per year. That's what they want to do. They just want to schedule one. However, usually the first year that a student is identified and needs an IEP or a 504 plan and it's being put into place, they have the first meeting. And then there's a second meeting at the end of the school year where they look at the progress of the student and they set a plan up for the next year. But here's something that most parents don't realize: you don't have to wait to have that one meeting that they're gonna call. So after the first initial year, the school is gonna do one ARD meeting. But you as a parent have the right to call an ARD meeting or IEP meeting at any time during that school year. And the school is required to meet the accommodations of the parent's request and get that meeting done. And I want to say this very clearly to you because this is something I have personally experienced over the years and I have seen other families deal with. If a parent requests a meeting and a school says, well, we don't feel like it's necessary to have an ARD meeting right now, or we can't accommodate you until the next school year, we can't get it done this school year. That is not acceptable at all. Don't accept that as a we can't do it, we can't get it done, because they have to and they're required to do this under special education law. In a lot of states, especially in the United States, they have 14 days to do that. So check with your state to find that out. So you have the right to request to see where your student is, where their progress is, where their needs are being met, any concerns that you have that might come up, you call an ARD meeting. I have personally called meetings quite a number of times throughout the year for my own children to have them evaluated sooner, because you want to make sure that your kids are functioning academically, emotionally, and the support that they need is working for them. So it's really important. These meetings make a huge difference in your child's education and their success in school. And trust me, this is not being about being that you're being difficult at school or you're that difficult parent or the helicopter parent. I've heard those things over the years. This is about being involved and making sure that your child is getting what they need. And trust me, you need to do that. As the parent, you're the advocate. So now that we've talked about that, I hope that you understand that what an ARD meeting is and why it matters and the role that you have in it. So let's now talk about how to walk into that room and be prepared and be confident and not feel overwhelmed. So I'm going to give you 5 things to think about to be prepared for an ARD meeting that will help you out. So number 1 is if you have ever felt like you are unprepared, it's okay. So we're going to just walk you through that. You probably have felt like you're sitting in a room with teachers, specialists, administrators, and talking about your child. And that's very emotional and it's very personal. And sometimes the language and things that they are talking about is like a brick wall. It's like over your head. So just give yourself some grace and don't worry about that. Just take it one step at a time. Okay. So you are your child's advocate, not just a participant at that meeting. So make sure that you know that. I have advocated for a lot of parents because they didn't know what to say, they didn't know what their rights were. So I've gone in even and sat in on one ARD meeting. And after that, the parents realized that they could advocate for themselves and how to do that. So basically, it's a mindset shift for you. You're not there to just listen to what everybody else says and agree with what they say. You are there to be your child's voice. So this is very important, okay? No one in that room knows your child better than you do, and don't let them tell you that they do. No one sees what you see at home with your child. No one understands the struggles that your child has, and they typically don't always see the strengths that your child has that you see in your child. And sometimes, without realizing it, parents can feel like that they just don't understand and that what the professionals might be saying is true, or they need to go along with what the professionals, the teachers, the administrators, maybe that the diagnostician says. But the idea behind an ARD meeting is that you are a team together. It's not them against you or them against you and your child. It's supposed to be a team and all together. So your role is very important. You have the right to ask questions. You have the right to speak up. And you can say, wait a minute, I don't understand. Can you explain that? And stop and ask. If you don't understand what they're doing as far as accommodations and modifications and what that means, then stop and ask them to explain. That's what the ARD meeting is for. It's for you to understand and for you to know exactly what is going to be done to help your child. So this is not a time for you to be passive. It's time for you to stand up and be an advocate. So before you walk into that meeting, take the time to really think about your child. Take out a piece of paper and write these things down. You might want to take a note of these things that I'm telling you, but write these things down about your child. What are they struggling with right now? Are they having a hard time reading? Are they having a hard time focusing in classroom? What do you see is the struggle that your child's having when you work with them at home or what they may have even said to you? Next, what frustrates them? You see what frustrates them. The teachers may not see what frustrates them. Some students will show that frustration at school, and some wait until they get home and show the frustration, and the parents get the blunt of that. But so you often know more about what frustrates them than the teacher does. Third, where do you see growth in your child? There may be some things that your child is doing and not doing well with, but there are things that you probably have seen that they have a strength in and they have grown in. And that's really important too, because that's something to discuss. Can you lean into something that is their strength to help them to grow in the area that is their weakness? So that's really important to think about those things and to discuss those because the school teachers and the diagnostician and the administrators may not have seen those things in your child. And next, what works at home that the school may not be using for your kid? So there might be some things that you do at home with your child that helps them to be able to focus better, helps them to be able to clear their mind better, helps them to be able to get their work done better. You may do some things like a Pomodoro technique where you give them 15-minute break increments in between working, and that may help them to be able to focus better. You may have them in a certain designated spot where they can listen to music, but it doesn't distract them, it helps them to focus better. You might allow them to have something to hold on to play with in their hands, some type of fidget or something that helps relieve their stress. Those may be things that you have used at home that works for your child that they don't use at school, but you can request those things to be used at school to help your child succeed better. So keep those things in mind. Your insight is really important. So please, please, please take the time to be prepared when you go into that ARD meeting. I've seen situations where what is on the paper doesn't fully reflect what is actually happening every day at school and what's happening at home. So you need to take the time to speak up and so that you can fill in those gaps where there might be some at school and some at home. So just take the time to do those documents and take them with you. This is really, really important. The next thing that I think is one of the most important things is to know what your rights are. This is something that I have learned over the years. When I first struggled with one of my first children that had a learning difference in school, I didn't know anything about anything with special education, what an IEP meeting was, what an ARD meeting was, what my rights were for my child. I didn't know any of that. But unfortunately, I had somebody like me now that was kind enough to say, "Hey, do you know what your rights are for your child? Please don't let the school tell you this. Here's where you can go and find more information. Here's what you need to know." And so that's why I'm doing this because somebody did that for me, and it really helped me to be able to advocate and know what my rights were for my children. So the schools are required to follow the laws under special education. Here in the United States and in other countries around the world, they have laws for special education and for students that struggle in school. But they're not always explained. They're supposed to be, but they're not always explained unless you ask. So, one of the best things you can do is to educate yourself. You can go to a state's education website. Every state in the United States has one of them, and in other countries, they have websites that outline the laws on special education in those states and countries. So you can go to them and you can look up what your parental rights are and your students' rights are to understand that so that you have more knowledge of that before you go into the ARD meeting or IEP meeting. There are things that are called parents' rights, and there are guidelines for IEPs, and there are guidelines for the 504, and there are definitions for the information for the ARD meetings and the IEP meetings as well. So you want to know all those things. I will tell you that most states will, at an ARD meeting, IEP meeting, will hand out a booklet that shares with you what those rights are and what the parents' rights are. However, if they do not hand that out to you, you need to make sure that you ask for it. That way you have that information. It helps you to be as informed as you can be. And you may read some of those things under the parental rights and not understand them, and that's okay too. The ARD meeting is also a place where you can ask those things to be clarified because they have to do that for you. Okay, so now that we've covered that, I want you to hear this from me. Once you get into that ARD meeting and you sit in the ARD meeting and you discuss the things that you feel might be better for your child to help them to succeed, whether it's an accommodation or it's a modification, or if it's speech or if it's occupational therapy, whatever it may be. If you are not completely and totally comfortable with everything that has been discussed and you want to think about it longer, you have the right to do that. Just because you are sitting in that ARD meeting that day to discuss about things about your child, you have the right to say that you would like to have time to look this over and think about this. And that is completely okay for you to do that. They want to make those meetings go by quick and fast and just get it done and get it over with, and they want to make you feel like, well, if we don't sign it and we don't do it today, it's just going to delay and we don't have time to come back to this. But please know that you do have the right. If you feel like after you've done all these things that we've discussed about and you still feel like that you need to take a little bit of time to digest everything that they talked about in the ARD meeting, what the accommodations could be and the modifications for your child could be, and you want to think about it overnight or for a couple of days and then reconvene, you have the right to do that and come back to that. So please know that you do have that right. So I've talked to parents and I have experienced this myself where you walk out of a meeting and you just think, oh my gosh, I wish I had asked this, or I didn't fully understand, or I felt rushed, or I just didn't want to ask to because you just wanted to avoid the whole thing. Um, just know that it's okay if you have another question to ask. Reach out to the diagnostician, reach out to the administrators, the teachers, whatever you need to do. Go ahead and call them. Don't feel like once that our meeting's over that you don't have the right to contact them again and ask something and have something clarified. Okay? So, I wanna give you a little encouragement about this whole thing. I hope that all of this information that I've given you today will help you to be better prepared and feel like you understand a little bit more about what an IEP and a 504 is. I just want to encourage you in the fact that you don't have to know everything. Just know that you're not gonna know everything when you go into that ARD meeting the first time. Um, the biggest thing that you are just showing up for your child and asking questions. That is the biggest and most important thing that you are showing up for your child. God placed that child in your hands and in your care for a reason. So he will give you the wisdom to know what to ask and to know what to do to help your child out. So as you prepare for your next IEP meeting, whether it's at the beginning of the year, or most of them right now are near the end of the year, and that's why I decided to go ahead and do this IEP podcast was so that you would understand and you'd be prepared because usually between now and the end of the school year is when they're doing the IEP or the ARD meetings for the next year. So, I felt like it was good to be able to do this episode to help you to get through the end of this year. So, just take a deep breath and think about all these things that I have discussed on the podcast. And I know that when you go into that hard meeting, that you're going to be more prepared and you're going to feel more prepared and more confident. So leave the fear outside and go in that door with confidence. You can walk in there with clarity and just trust that you know what your child needs as their parent. And if you just need a moment before that meeting, take it. Talk to God, ask for wisdom, ask for peace, and trust me, He will give you that understanding and clarity that you need. So, as I close out this episode today, I just want to tell you that if you need to have more support or you have more questions about IEP and 504 plans, I want you to know that you still have a place to go. I have a community called Design to Win that's online, and you are invited to come into that community. It's where we support one another and share tools and resources to help your child succeed. So it doesn't cost you anything. You just get on there and join the community, and you are free to ask questions and put questions out there. And if there's something that you have done or you have walked through with your child with IEPs and 504s that you want to give tips about, please feel free to get on there and share that on the community. It will help other people. And there may be people that are wanting to ask questions. They just don't know exactly what to say or what to ask, or they just feel a little uncomfortable or have some fear about getting on there and asking anything. So if you open up to share what you have, that would be great. So also, you can visit my website at daraleigh.com. There are some digital downloads on there and resources on there. My planner is on there, and there is a free download on there that has a lot of information about IEPs and 504s, and it gives a lot of definitions about exactly the wording and things that are used in IEP meetings. So that is there for you too. So please go to the website and feel free to download that. And I thank you again for being with me today. I hope this has helped you tremendously. And as always, thank you so much for listening to my channel. Until next time, we will see you then.